you can be like a badass CEO who makes like a shit ton of money and has a business that people are envious of, but also do it in a way that feels really good. Hello. Welcome back to the Soulful CEO Path, the podcast for purpose-driven entrepreneurs who are building wildly abundant and aligned businesses that create ripple effects of positivity in the world. And you guys are in for a treat today. I am doing something totally different. This episode is going to be one of a kind. We've never done this. And this episode is about opening up the curtains and letting you into my world. But instead of me just riffing by myself, talking to myself, I have a good friend, fellow podcast host, and career coach for parents, Andrea Barr here. And Andrea Barr has volunteered to interview me. And so I actually have no idea what she's going to ask. And I told her that everything's on the table. So I'm going to hand this over to Andrea, and we're just going to settle in, grab your cup of coffee, listen to this on your walk, and we'll see where this goes. My intention is that you get to see like the real human behind the business, and that I just share not only things that might be personal, but also learnings that I've had along the way. So I hope you enjoy.
Welcome to the Soulful CEO Path podcast. Kristin Constable, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, total role play.
And I love your intro. And I think that people should know, if they've never met you in person, if they're just, fans, big fans, which I'm sure there's many of, that the person that you hear on the podcast, the person you see online is 100% Kristin. Like she is no different. You are no different when you are speaking in a huge room full of like executives, of which I've seen you do, or if you're talking to me as a friend or a fellow colleague, or if you're working with your clients. You are the same, and that's something I so appreciate and value about you.
I love that reflection. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Well done for accepting it.
Mm-hmm.
Something you teach others, I know. Let's go to the word soulful. So you had me on your podcast as well, and we had a discussion. You asked me the question that you ask everybody: what does being a soulful CEO look like to you? And I want to ask that question back to you. And from the time that you started this podcast, or started kind of really speaking soulful into your work, to where you are now, what does it mean, and how has it evolved over that time?
Great question. So I started bringing the word soul into my work probably it was after I ended my leadership development consultancy, Winning Academy, and when I started doing more work under my personal brand. And one of the things that I started to bring into my work more was this idea of doing our soul work in the world. So creating businesses around, you could call it like mission, purpose, soul essence, whatever you want to call it. But it was like not just creating businesses because we see a like need in the market or a gap in the market. And there's entrepreneurs like that. And I like all power to them. I think it's an incredible like visionary skill set to have. But I know for myself and the people that I support is it's more about using business as a vehicle to express your skills and your gifts and your gifting, and just feel like you are doing work that's impactful and meaningful. So that's kind of how it started, is this idea of like doing soul work in the world. And to be honest, I went pretty woo with it. Like, I don't know if you remember, there was like a point in time where like the branding went really woo. I started talking about it like business being a spiritual game, and it was like a fun place to hang out in. But if I'm going to be totally honest, it was because I was going through that work myself. And I was using my business as a like mirror of the like internal, I guess you could call it like spiritual evolution I was going through. But once I kind of got grounded in that and, really got grounded in like that for myself, I realized that there was like a big part that I had left behind, which was in the corporate leadership development space, which was this idea of being a CEO and really being a business owner and being a leader. So Soulful CEO is the like integration of really these two worlds of what that means, and bringing this place together where you can be like a badass CEO who makes like a shit ton of money and has a business that like, people are envious of, but also do it in a way that feels really good and is aligned with your values. So yeah, long answer to your question, but that's where that came from.
Mic drop. I think we
Mhm.
can end it here. That's so cool. I actually didn't know that. And I
Yeah.
am a big fan and follower. And I didn't realize that you kind of skewed woo. And then you were like, wait, how do I now integrate the leadership thing, which has always been a tenet of you in your business is self-leadership, leadership of others and all that. Now, a question for you about that reflection, like how your business and the decisions you were making was a reflection of what was happening for you personally. What's your advice to others who might be doing that? Because a lot of us are creating businesses out of a need that we had. I myself, career coach for parents, because I saw that I had a need and that others had a need. Like, this is what we do.
Yeah.
But what are your like cautions, I guess, around that when
Yeah.
you're leaning too much on perhaps like your personal experience?
This is such an important question. There's nothing wrong with building, like, as mentors. I think there's a difference between mentor and coach,
Mm.
but a lot of that is getting a bit blurred in today's coaching landscape.
Landscaping coach.
Yeah, exactly. And so if we just talk about coach mentor slash mentor, which I think is where most people kind of hang out in that space, rather than say, I'm just going to put this out there, like non-directive coaching, you don't have to have been there, done it. Like it's not the path you've walked. Mentorship, it has to be the path you've walked.
Yes.
And then there's this like coach mentor space in between. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with building a business around your own personal journey, what you've learned, how you can support people who are walking a similar path than you. That's great. But where it starts to go off course is when we actually don't take our ideal client into mind. We don't bring them into the equation. And we're just like, I want to do this because I want to do it versus what our ideal client actually needs and wants from us. So actually, if you all haven't listened to, I don't know how I'm going to air these episodes, but Andrea and I just did an episode where she was a guest on the show. If you haven't listened to that one, at the end of the show, we were talking about Andrea's work and how you were saying that you call yourself a career coach because that's where your ideal clients needs you to meet them. But really, like that's the tip of the iceberg. What you're doing with people are these like layers and layers deeper, which actually goes back to kind of like purpose work and like, who are you and what do you want your life to look like and the impact you want to have. And that's the missing piece is like if you were just like, I want to do purpose work with people because that was really important for me. That would just be a very I-centric place to build from. And it usually doesn't work. But when we can be like, I want to do this work, but my ideal client actually needs me to meet them here, then we can do both. We can do our work in the world, but we package it in a way that is like palatable and well, people can just meet us there. Otherwise, they're like, that's not for me, right? Like that's not resonant for me. And we never get the chance to actually really deeply impact people.
How much do you think people need to be healed on this note, healed in that space before they can support others?
Oh,
What's your, like, I know what's your philosophy on that?
yeah, this is a great question. I mean, I don't think it's responsible to work with people if you are still healing yourself. The caveat to that is we're always healing, right? It's, there's layers upon it. But if we can't share from like and coach from a non-triggered place or a non-wounded place, then we don't have the capacity to hold for that person's experience. And what can happen is we end up projecting our own stuff onto them, which is not fair. We end up getting into codependent dynamics with our clients. And so, there isn't a black and white answer to this, but it depends on obviously what you're coaching on. But I think if you can't hold for the depth of the conversation that it might go to without feeling emotionally triggered yourself, then that means that you're not quite ready to be a mentor or guide or coach yet. And doesn't mean you can't get there or work with people on different things, but people are trusting us as coaches with their lives, whether you're a business coach or a life coach or a career coach. We get like the front row seat to people's lives. And the words that we say, we may say them in passing, right? We may not really even think about them if we're just unconsciously communicating, but people listen to them and they internalize them and it impacts their beliefs and their actions. So like, this is where I actually get kind of serious, because like, I think that it can be underestimated, the impact you have on people's lives as a coach. And people want to get into coaching and they're like, oh, it sounds like a fun career. I get to help people. But like, can you really hold for the human experience that your client is going to have? And if not, then maybe it's not time yet.
I think it's so important that you started off this whole discussion actually delineating coaching and mentorship, because I think it's important as well that you do think about what is the strategy, what is the modality in which I am speaking or holding this space. Because if you're trying to coach people to make $1 million in their business, you yourself have not walked that path. That's okay if you're taking it from a coaching perspective,
Yes.
because you're working from a non-directive point of view. But if you're then taking that mentorship role and like giving hard and fast advice, like, I find that icky, right?
Totally.
Such a funny dynamic. Do you think that you could have arrived at this niche of being a soulful, like a coach, or oh my gosh, I don't even know how, like you are the soulful CEO guru. Do you think you could have arrived at this stage of your business any sooner? Is it important that you've walked the path that you have? Or is there a part of you that's like, oh, that would have been cool to have just like kicked off right away?
Oh my gosh. So I've been in business now this will be my 9th year. Sometimes I sit there and I'm like, why has it taken me this long to get here? And I'm so grateful about where I'm from, where I'm at, and I am happy and content with where I'm at in my business, but I have like way bigger dreams and goals. Like this is like, I'm just getting started in my mind. And I'm like, how the hell has it taken me 9 years to get here? When I see other people come out of the gates and it's like, they're like making 7 figures in their first couple of years. I'm like, wow. But this is where the like soulful part comes into things, and like just my context of life is that we are all walking our own paths and everything is intentional. And so my path has not been, an overnight success. My path has been having to walk these different places, collect the wisdom and the learnings along the way. And I am a more, I guess, like resource dynamic, wise person because of it. And I'm happy with that because that's my path. But on the like egoic level, would I want to have been here a lot sooner? Fuck yes.
I love your honesty. I like that you call it out, that you're like, oh, why didn't I get here sooner? Because we all feel that way. But like, I would look at you and be like, every step she's taken is intentional. Out this gate, she's like, whole life leadership. Then I'm going to move into it. Like, and it always looks like someone else has got the path planned.
Like I've like planned it all ahead of time. Yeah, no.
I know. Now to go a little serious again, you have weathered phases and things in your personal life that have, I know, rocked you, and you have maintained this in the past 9 years. You've maintained this business and moving forward with such integrity. How have you stayed so malleable? And can you share, how has it looked when life has gotten weird and you've still been a business owner where you are your business and the business is you?
Yeah, good question. I mean, this is I think this is something that a lot of people navigate when you are the business. And it's like, it's not, if I don't show up and run the business doesn't run. That's where my business is at right now. Yeah. And I think a lot of service-based business owners are in that position. And so, yeah, it can be tough when big life stuff comes your way. So in 2020, I navigated a divorce that it was really like 2019 to 2020. I was like drawn out a little while. And it was like a big thing to be able to continue to show up, continue to do the work with clients and hold like impeccable spaces and also tend to myself as I was going through all of that. I think one of the things that has really always helped me is I've looked at my business as, and I don't know if this is like healthy or not, but I'm like, this is what my process has been, is like my business has been the one thing in my life that I have always been able to control to a certain degree. So it's like effort in, like input out kind of idea. And like, I know that if I do these things, I'll get this result, or it's a safe place to put my energy in that will get me some kind of ROI. So when I have gone through these like big things like the divorce, interestingly enough, I've always had income jumps. So in 2020, I mean, there's other things going on too, right? There was like obviously the pandemic that was going on. I kind of switched business models, but that year, I would say like I increased my revenue by 75%. Not quite 100, but like I think it would be around 75%. And so I'm going through all this personal stuff, but my business is just thriving because I'm using it as this place to pour into and kind of like distract myself, I guess, but like also not, because I was doing my own healing. But how much can you do, right? Like I remember there was like mornings where I'd have such bad anxiety in the first little bit because, that I don't know if anyone listening has gone through a divorce, but there's this time where your lives have just been like separated, and like the routines and habits are the hard part, really, for me anyways. It was. So it's like waking up with no one in the house, like, having your normal things that you would do together. It takes time to like pull those apart and for those not to have charge to them. And so I would wake up at, whatever time, 5 in the morning, wouldn't be able to get back to sleep. I got this like breakup recovery course, which is kind of hilarious in retrospect, but it was good because
Good niche.
yes, it was. And it gave me something to focus on in the morning. I do that like healing work. And then I need to get on with my day, right? I just like, I
Right.
don't want to hang out there all freaking day. So then I would have my business that I could pour into and, and friends and things like that. I mean, that was hard because there was no friends at that time. We all had to be
No friends.
separated. No friends. But it was, so that's why I think my business like did so well that year, because it was like something that I could use as an anchor.
Right.
And as I said, I don't know if that's healthy or not, but that's kind of like that's one example, but there's been other examples in my life where hard things have happened and I've kind of like used my business in that way of this like anchor, something I can count on.
Did you see a difference in how you showed up for your business before and after the divorce? And we don't need context or what happened or what have you, but I assume before a divorce, there's something that's not working, and that can impact, I imagine, your business. And then afterwards, there's grieving, and maybe there's liberation. I don't know, I don't know what your experience was, but like, did you feel a shift?
Yes. I mean, like in all fairness, is like, as in relationships, it wasn't always bad. So it's like that it wasn't always like this. But during that year that we were kind of going through our stuff, the amount of energy that went towards that, like what wasn't working in the relationship, and just like the emotional turmoil and the indecision and like everything, that the fighting, like all of that, it's just such a drain. And it really took away from what I was able to, like how I was able to show up in my business. I was still doing the things, but the like energy behind it wasn't there. The like frequency wasn't there. And, I say this to my partner now a lot, is like, your life, in my opinion, your life partner, no matter what, but it's even just through the business owner lens, like an entrepreneurial lens, is like one of the most important decisions you can make. Because if they're not supporting you, if they're not actually adding to your life, if they're not your biggest freaking cheerleader, like entrepreneurship is hard enough as it is, let alone having someone who's like taking from you or being negative or, not supporting your dreams. So in that way, yes, is like, having that, like cutting that cord and just being like, that negativity like needs to go. Having space where I was on my own and like just being like, okay, great, I can focus on myself and my business. And then now being with my partner who I've been with, it's coming up 5 years in October. And he's an entrepreneur as well, incredibly supportive. We'll wake up, like he's hilarious. He likes to like talk in the morning. So he's like up at 5. He's like, are you up? Can we talk about things? He's like, tell me your pitch. Yes, last night. He's like, I'm going to ask you in the morning what your like pitch is. I'm like, this is too much.
Every entrepreneur here is like, oh my God, what?
Yeah. But it's like actually so sweet, right? It's so sweet to be able to have that level of support and someone who's like just my biggest cheerleader. So yes, it's like drastically different.
I love that. And you kind of created this visual for me of like a cord. It doesn't sound like you were cutting the person, of which, yes, technically, I suppose you were. But it was cutting that energy drain.
Yeah.
Again, not the person, but the situation.
Yes.
It was like taking from your energy. And I feel like I'm thinking about like that it can be applied to so many things. Like, is it the corporate job that you're still in when you're straddling being a soulful CEO and you're in your corporate job? Is it the friendship that's not working?
Yes.
Is it a family member who's like a little bit needy or whatever? It's like,
yeah.
How can you like, what are those energy takers that you could release so you can pour a bit more into your business. Because
Yeah.
it's such a, man, it's such a thing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing
Total.
all that. Okay, I want to make sure we have enough time for some Q&A.
Okay.
I know you had a bunch of answers when you asked on Instagram what people wanted to
Mm-hmm.
know about, a little behind
Mm-hmm.
the curtain. And one of the questions that you got was, what's a big dream that you are
Oh.
working towards? And I'm so excited to hear this because you are a dreamer and you make shit happen.
Oh, there's like lots of, there's two things that I could share. And so I'll share both. So the big dream that is like out there in the future, and I think I've shared this before, is I just know in my timeline, a retreat center is like a thing. Like I just know, and I can just see how all of my experience going back to when I was in hospitality, running restaurants, like creating these like experiences for people, to the leadership work, to like all of it. It's just like when you talk about like, could you have gotten here any faster?
Yep.
Like I can just see like that is like the breadcrumbing into like that. And I'm unattached to when that happens, if that's in 10 years from now or a year from now. But I just know that that is kind of that North Star that is like guiding me, and it will drop in when it's supposed to drop in. So that's a big thing. There's not really like, I'm not like, oh, I'm like actively creating a business plan for that or whatever. I'm
Yeah.
just like really holding that as a possibility and bringing it to life. Like I know exactly what it's going to look like, and I know the design, and like it's so alive for me in my mind. So that's the big one. And then the smaller one, I mean, it's kind of interesting actually that they're on a similar thread. Maybe this is something to do with, like astrological years, like focus on different things for people.
Ooh.
And so it seems like house and home is like the theme for my dreams right now. So like retreat center, having something like that. And then personally, this year, one of our big dreams, myself and Ryan, my partner, is to buy a home ourselves. And so, well, it's more about a me thing actually, and why it's not just a home. Like Ryan laughs at me because in my life, I have lived in 15 or 16 different places, like homes. I know, I counted it out and I was like, whoa, it's like my toxic trait. Like pretty much after like a year and a half, something happens. I like want to live somewhere else. I want to move in with somebody. I don't know. It's been a thing. And after I turned 40, I'm 41 now, I was just like, I just want to settle somewhere that I absolutely love. And like, I don't want to move anymore. I don't want to like have it buy any more furniture. I can't tell you how many couches I've had in my lifetime. And I want it to be somewhere that I absolutely love. So this is why it's like a stretch dream for us, because like, yeah, we could buy something right now, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't be the thing, the place that I could see myself in for, years to come. So that's really what we're working towards right now, is like making that a reality.
Oh, I love it. That's cool. It's cool that they're kind of related. And if I may share and add to this, I was talking in the other episode about a couple that I worked with and did a session with them. And it was so funny because this Lynn Valley kept coming up. Lynn Valley is a place in North Vancouver. It's like in a
Mhm.
very small
So
neighborhood.
beautiful.
It's so beautiful. And so they were kept talking about moving to Lynn Valley, moving to Lynn Valley. And I said, I'm curious, more as someone who also lives in North Vancouver, like why Lynn Valley? And when it came down to it, it was like the essence of what Lynn Valley represented and what it allowed them to do. And in the end, they were like, yeah, we'll keep Lynn Valley because we understand what that means. Again, talking about words.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I think about you, like I have no doubt you will have a retreat center, but it's always cool to like reflect on like what is the essence of
Yeah.
that dream, like what's behind it, and it might be an actual center, but it might be like I don't even know, a company
Yeah.
that does retreats, or
Totally.
which is so cool. So I love that. Oh, I can't wait to come. It's gonna be so blissful.
It's going to be great. Yeah. Part of what I love about it is the R&D that I'm going to have to do for it.
So much R&D going down to
Yeah.
that Sienna. What's that one in Oh my gosh, there's one in like Arizona or California that looks so bougie and fun.
Yeah, there's a bunch down there in Arizona, Sedona area. And yeah, I know. There's,
Yeah.
yes,
If you need a partner, I
I
will
will.
leave my
Yes,
children and come.
absolutely.
Okay, best. No, I'll start with worst. Worst business advice that
Oh,
you can think of, have heard, had to be debunked for clients who have come, like a little bit of cleanup you've
oh,
had to do.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go specific here because I could give like something general and
Yeah.
it might be,
Yeah.
but it's not going to be as interesting. So, personally, a piece of business advice that I was given that I tried on that didn't work out for me was I was working with some coaches a few years ago, and they're in the online coaching space, and they're like, everyone's offering these guarantees right now. In order to compete in this space, like, you're going to have to offer a guarantee. And I was like, okay, but how do I do that ethically? Because, like, first of all, I don't even really know if I believe in this offering a guarantee thing, but I'm willing to try it on as long as it feels like aligned and good for me. So I had a business accelerator program that actually kind of made sense to put it in, because there was like a core curriculum. There were like things that people had to do. I had enough results in that program that I knew that if people showed up and did the work, they would get results. And so I was like, how can I, frame this in a way that isn't like over promising, under delivering, but also, makes it juicy, and like it makes people feel safe, because that's ultimately what
Yes.
the intention is with the guarantee,
Right.
is it's making people feel safe to make the investment. So I could wrap my head around that. What I ended up doing was I was like, if you do all of these things, and I wanted to make it reasonable, because there are guarantees out there, and this is typically actually how people do it, is they make the guarantee so like ridiculous. Like, in order to qualify for the guarantee, you have to do so many ridiculous things that no one's ever going to actually qualify. And to me, that's just like not okay. Like, that's just like, does not feel good. So I was like, okay, what is like the minimum that people have to do? And the way I thought about this was like, okay, if I was a trainer at the gym and someone's like, I want to get into shape, I wouldn't take them on if they're like, I want to get into shape, but I only want to show up like once a week, and I don't want to do abs, and I don't want to go do cardio. Like, I don't want to do these things. I just want to like get there. And I'm like, okay, well, if I frame it like that for myself, then I can like say, these are the minimum things in order for you to like get into shape, like get your business to a place where you have created, I think it was like the investment back in the program,
Mm,
which would mean that most people would have to sell about 3 clients within 3 months.
okay.
So it was seemed reasonable enough, right?
Totally.
And so I did it. And the interesting thing about it was that for some people, it ended up being the best thing for them. It gamified and you are from an L&D background, so you get like gamification.
Yeah.
It gamified the experience. They had a checklist. They like knew what they needed to do. There was a target. And so for, I would say, about 50, maybe even more, like, let's just say 50% of people, it was like a very positive thing. And then the other 50% of people, it either created way too much stress for them,
Mm,
and they like felt overwhelmed by the whole thing. Or there were some people that, even though they like did the work, the like action items, it was more about their like energetics and their confidence. And it just took them a very long time to get their investment back. And because I wanted to be integral, I like kept them in the coaching container until they did. But this was like, I was like way in the red with like honoring that commitment with them, because it just took them so much longer. And I was unwilling to, be shady about
yeah.
that. Anyways,
Oh,
all to be said, that is a thing that it was like, okay, I tried it on. I did it in a way that felt okay. But I was just like, that's an example of, just because everyone's doing it, or it's like what you need to compete or industry standard, I just like don't want to go there anymore with that. It's like, does it feel good for me? Is it something that like makes sense for me? And be willing to try things on, sure. But then also, I think for me, it was like being willing to let that go, and just like after I did it, just be like, nope, didn't work. It's that I don't need that, is essentially kind of what I got to.
yeah. Well, thanks for sharing it. That's very vulnerable, Kristen. Thank you.
Mhm.
That's a really good one. Okay, taking that same vein, what is the best business advice you've received? But can you also make it tangible? Like, what's
Mhm.
something that you did try on that you were like, oh, I loved that? Well, it could be a mindset or a philosophy, but like, yeah, what's something that's like really worked for you and your clients?
This goes way back in terms of advice, but it has shown up. And I'm actually working with some clients right now who are further, like, they're scaling with team. And this is just becoming, and you'll probably relate in your field. But when I worked for a restaurant group years ago, when I was in university getting my degrees, I was bartending for the company. And then I finished my degree, and I was like, before I go back and do any other schooling, I want to get like hands-on management experience. So I asked the restaurant group if I could step into a leadership position. And pretty much overnight, I went from being peers with these people that I worked with to managing and leading them. I had such a steep learning curve around feedback and how to give direct and clear feedback to people. I would say naturally, I tend to lean more towards like people pleasing and being nice. I'm not naturally like a conflict kind of person. Like I don't thrive in like that kind of environment.
You are
But
direct though. You're kind and direct.
so that's learned, right? And
Yeah,
I
okay.
really had to learn that. And that is the best learning I think I could have had. And it serves me so well now, even with my team, with clients, even and holding boundaries.
Mm.
And there's this like saying that it's like being clear is kind. And when we like skirt around stuff or like don't give direct feedback or don't want to be mean by giving feedback, we're actually not being kind. And it does such a disservice for your client. But also, if you have a team or I don't know, like you're in partnership with somebody or whatever, we're in relationships when we are business owners, even if we're solopreneurs. It's all about relationships. So, really honing that skill set of how to have direct and kind feedback has been probably the most helpful thing on an interpersonal level as a business owner.
I love that. Can you share the example? It's so funny that was your response, because one thing there's so much that you have taught me in my career. And there was a time that you were telling me that there was a client of yours who was consistently showing up 10 to 15 minutes late.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember this client?
No, but I feel like this happens a lot, and I have to have these conversations. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. So how would Kristin Constable, who is equal parts kind and direct, like how do you just give that feedback, or how do you have that conversation when it's the person who's paying the bill and you don't want to, it's an awkward, like they're in the power holding position. How do you have
yeah,
that conversation with that client?
yeah. I don't know. I can't remember what I shared with you back then, but I actually just had this conversation a couple weeks ago with a client of mine, and I find it's actually the clients who are like more like this client specifically has like an 8-figure business, like she's like running a big thing, and it's them that's like that level that seems to be more tricky in this way because they
Mm.
experience themselves as busy, right? And so it's for me how I have those conversations and how I shared this with her was just reflecting the pattern. So I always reflect the pattern as like, hey, have you like, out of the last 2 coaching conversations we've had, in both conversations, you've shown up 10 minutes late. What's going on there for you? And seeing like what is coming back for them is like, oh, and then if I hear in there that there is like excuses or like things that I use that as an opportunity to coach them. But then also I use that as an opportunity to set boundaries. So with clients, if they're paying for it, I'm like, you have me for this hour. If you want to show up 15 minutes later, you do show up 15 minutes late. I'd prefer if you gave me a heads up because I might leave if I don't think you're coming, but also know that we're not going to go overtime. Like that's like not going to happen. So usually just having that more often than not, just reflecting back to people the pattern. And that's our job, in my opinion, as coaches, is like not to be nice. Oh, it's no problem, not a big deal. It's like you're not, everything is like there as an opportunity to help people evolve and ascend. And if we're just like not going there because we don't want to have conflict, we're actually doing them a disservice.
It's so true. It's like being a leader too. Like that person is the leader of their team. If they're showing up in that way, or they're without that integrity, or if they themselves are saying like, oh yeah, it's okay, no worries, then the person on their team keeps showing up late, and then it comes time for review period and they give them that feedback at that point, the person will be
Yeah,
like, well, you kept saying it was okay. Like,
totally.
don't worry about it. So yeah,
And that's where
that's
the not being kind thing comes in. It's like way
right.
nicer in the moment to have that conversation versus holding it and then using it against them.
Right. Oh, I like that. Okay, last question, because I think we've already kind of touched on like what soulful CEO means. So I'm not going to ask
Hmm.
you your own question
Yeah.
back, but I want to ask you, what's something that people might not know about you who are listening? If they know you from
Oh,
like a business context, Soulful CEO Path podcast host, like what's something that might surprise them?
okay. Well, one of the things that I am working on this year, I'll share is that I am, if anyone's familiar with the Enneagram, an Enneagram 7, which means that I have a tendency to really like variety and newness and adventure. And so something that I am really working on is taking time before saying yes to things,
Mm.
because I have gotten myself in really interesting situations. Like being on a 5-night, 6-day backpacking trip on the West Coast Trail with no previous backpacking experience, like went and bought all my stuff from Mech like the week before, and then die, right? Like I'm like, oh, I can do it. No, I can't do that. Like that's that's not normal
They're
for
gonna say it
someone
was
to
like with
do.
people you didn't know as well.
Yeah, just one person. It was one friend, and it really tested the friendship. Let's And we had we had monsoon weather conditions. It was nuts. Anyways, this is just one of many examples of things like this where I end up somewhere. I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, this is insane. And I don't think people know that about me, because I think I give the impression that I'm quite grounded and calculated maybe, or just strategic is a better word. Grounded and strategic. But this is a side of my personality that is something I really have to watch because it gets me in trouble.
Oh, I love that. It's funny because on my podcast, I ask everybody, what are you still trying to figure out? And boom, there it is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like, it sounds like you're being intentional about it.
I'm trying.
That's
Yeah.
good. Okay. So
Yeah.
if anyone's listening and they're asking things of Kristin, force her to take the night to think about it before
Yes.
responding.
That's my rule now, is if I can give myself 24 hours and I still want to do it, then cool.
If the opportunity were to happen tomorrow, would you do it? I just heard that recently and I was like, oh, that's such a good one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, things 3 months away, they're like, oh, do you want to speak at this thing? And you're like, yeah, it sounds great. It's in Timbuktu. But it's if it were tomorrow, would you do it? And then somebody else on this podcast I was listening to was like, what about in the moment? If you would do that thing right now, would you do it?
Oh.
Yeah, no.
Yes, I'm taking that. I really like that. I got myself into a situation last week where if I had just asked that question, I would have avoided it. And coming back to the being direct thing, is that's where I get myself in trouble of not being in integrity, because I'll say yes to something I don't really want to say yes to, and then I either have to flake if I want to be true to myself, or I do something that's not true to myself just to do what I say I'm going to do. It sucks.
Oh, it's so good. Well, thank you for opening up. I've learned so much about you that I didn't know, and your business, and you're so real and honest, and I just love you. And thanks for letting me sit in your spot, in your host seat.
This is so fun. I appreciate you and doing this for this podcast and the questions, and I hope you all enjoyed it. And if you have any other questions that you want me to answer in the future, share them with me, tag me on Instagram, send me a DM. And excited to continue these kind of raw, real conversations with this community. So thanks for being here, and we'll see you in the next episode.